Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. We've got 8 things you must financially accomplish in your 30s this week. Last week we did your 20s. Go back, watch that video if you missed it. Now we're talking about our 30s. A lot of our clients are not 30s, they're not 20s, but a lot of our clients' kids are. My nephew is. I've got my own child. We've got to make sure that they're as financially responsible as they can be. So I like coming up with a few targets for them to hit in each decade. So let's jump right in. First thing in your 30s that you really should be thinking about is advancing that career, okay? This is where maybe if you want to transition to going self-employed, if it goes wrong, you're still in your 30s, you can bounce back. So this is where we take our chances. In our 30s, we're making sure, one, we have a career. We've transitioned from the job. Now we're in the career. Now we have to advance it, okay? So self-employed options, the side hustles, are they working? Are they not working? Do we need to have one? Side hustles are things like, little self-employment while you're working a full-time job. Maybe you're an Uber driver or things like that, okay? Ask for a raise, go for the promotion, and even think about pivoting to your second career. A lot of people are going to have several different careers in their life. So there's nothing wrong with adjusting at some point. You're still young in your 30s, and it's time to take those chances and really make a break for it. Okay? Next, number 2, who are the Joneses? Why are we keeping up with them? If you haven't learned this yet, you have to learn this. If your friend just got the fresh new BMW or got the Tesla or whatever, we're not trying to keep up with the Joneses, okay? Getting into that frenzy of I need, I want, and not knowing the difference between the two is a huge problem when it comes to saving and being financially responsible. We need to live within our means, period. Faster you learn that, the better off we'll be. Next, life starts changing in your 30s for most people. Now, some people it's a little earlier, some people it's a little later, but at this point you might be married, you might have kids. There's a lot of things changing when you're in your 30s. So go through, assess your needs. Sometimes we start prioritizing health insurance when we look at a job. If you're married, then one of you has to have a good health insurance plan at work, and the other one can take chances. When I went self-employed, my wife had nice, stable employment and good health insurance. That's a good plan. That's thinking through things. If you're going to try and go self-employed, if you're going to take chances on your career, somebody's got to have the stability, okay? Then you start looking at things like disability and life insurance, because what happens if you either get disabled and can't work? What happens if you pass away? The people you're leaving behind, are they financially burdened? These are things that you have to start thinking about as you start building a family. And so we need to assess all of these needs. Then if we're going self-employed, if maybe we have rental properties, if we're starting to expand and expose ourselves to more risks, maybe we need to think about umbrella insurance as well, which covers more liability than the typical insurances. Then number 4, this is one that I always wish I did. I did buy my first house in my 20s, but I did sell it, and I wish I didn't. I wish I kept it. And so one of the things that I've told my nephews, that I've told a lot of kids buying their first house is, buy it with this in mind. You're probably not going to live there the rest of your life, but you should be diligently paying down that mortgage, because in the back of your head, you're never going to sell that house. When you're ready to move on to the next house, you need to turn this house into a rental. That is a great concept, because if you buy your first house in your 20s, if you just pay every payment on that 30-year mortgage, you're done in your 50s. Now you own a house free and clear, and all the rent is yours, okay? Same thing in your 30s. If you buy a second house in your 30s and you just diligently pay that 30-year mortgage for 30 years, you're done paying that in your 60s. So that is the wonderful side, is the length of time that you have. And having a renter pay that mortgage payment for you, even if you're not profiting, as long as you're breaking even, later in life, that's going to be a huge asset It also helps people retire earlier. Because one of the problems with retiring in your 50s is, where are you going to get your income from? You can't collect Social Security. You can't touch all your IRA money. So we run into problems with retiring early solely because where are you going to get the income for that? Rental properties are great for retiring early. So next one, no debt. I don't want to hear anything about credit card debt. I don't want to hear anything about student loan debt. And I don't want to hear anything about auto loan debt ever again. From 30s on, you only pay cash for things that you can afford to pay for, period. Okay, that's the Dave Ramsey hard nose. You don't have a choice. This is the way it is. You know you're going to need a car, so start saving for it. Don't buy it and then pay for it later. And realize that you keep trading these cars in before you even have them paid off, and now you start owing more on these cars than it's worth, and you get people talking to you about gap insurance. You're buying insurance because you owe too much on a car, and the day you drive it off the lot, you're going to owe an extra 10 grand compared to what it's worth. Stop that. It's a terrible habit. We know we need a car. Start looking at this realistically and say, let's get a car paid off and start saving for the next car. Okay, next, savings and investing. It's time to reassess. Just like the insurance, you need to kind of review. We need to now look at our budget again because things are changing. We have to think about our family. We have to start making some changes to what we're doing in our budget. You should be raising the retirement savings goal to 10 to 15% of your income. 10 to 15% of your paycheck should be going straight into the 401k or other savings avenues. You should also be looking at 529s for the kids. If you can just throw a few $1,000s into a 529 when a kid gets born, get the grandparents to help out, get that started as early as possible, because that compounding growth is what makes the difference. If you wait till your kid's 16 years old and throw a bunch of money in a 529, there was no reason to do it. Do it early, do it often, and let it grow, okay? The other side of this is making sure that your portfolio is nice and clean and diversified. Make sure you keep the fees as low as possible. You still, at this stage in life, don't need me. You don't need an advisor putting an income plan together, worrying about taxation, because they're going to talk about fun things like that you have no need for. All they're really going to do is just pick some mutual funds. And again, I say this all the time. If you're in your 20s and 30s, just Google best mutual funds for 2023, 24, 25, whatever years you want to do that for, and utilize good, low-cost, well-diversified mutual funds, and you should be fine. It's the diligence of keeping the fees out of there for the long run. The advisors will earn their keep as you're getting ready for retirement. That's where they'll earn their keep. Then adjust your budget to your life changes, okay? Children, we got to start saving for them. They're expensive, trust me. Insurances, you've got new things you have to pay for that you never thought you had to pay for. Vacations, we're an adult now. We need to take vacations. We can't just work ourselves to the bone and not take time off. So we need to save for things. Okay, we need to pay cash for those cars, as I was talking about. The budgeting and understanding these changes is important, and being proactive is important. So put this together, make sure you're thoughtfully looking through this budget and adjusting your needs. And then the final one is, it's amazingly too early to think about this, but the reality is unfortunately things happen. Whether you get in a car accident or something happens to you, we need to have proper documentation in place. This is really to help your heirs. Okay, things get extremely messy if you pass away and there's no documentation. It's a pain in the rear end. So make sure your accounts have all their beneficiaries listed on them, and get your will, your living will, and your medical and financial power of attorneys. Okay, those are the basic documents everybody needs, and it's important, and it's pretty easy to do. You can go on any of the legal websites out there, and they've got the packages for will-based plans that are very cheap, and it makes it simple. You don't have to go to an expensive lawyer for stuff like this, especially in your 30s. Just do the bare minimum so that way your heirs aren't left with a complete mess if something happens to you, okay? So those are some things that we got to really think about in our 30s that are unique to the 30s, I think. Certainly, if you didn't accomplish the things that I talked about for the 20s, you really should start there and then work on the 30s in your later 30s. So, all right, I hope this helps quite a bit. Thanks for joining us. If we can help in any way, again, we're available live via Zoom anywhere in the world. But if you want to meet with us in person, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona. Come for vacation or come on down. It's a great place, especially now that we're heading out of summer and into winter, because we don't have any other seasons. We have hot and not so hot. All right, thanks again. Subscribe. We'll keep adding materials every single month. Thanks a lot.